Hello, all you big, beautiful brains out there. Ever got so caught up looking at the news that you just can't stop? Today, we're going to talk about doom scrolling. Before we get started, take a minute to subscribe to Psy vs. Psy. Help out your friendly neighborhood psychologist while I tell you all about doom scrolling. Doom scrolling. Even just the word sounds kind of ominous. Hold on. Doom scrolling. We've all been there. When the news gets bad, the bad start scrolling. Spending an excessive amount of time online reading and watching news is called doom scrolling. Staying updated may sound like a good thing and may even give us a sense of control or action in an uncontrollable situation. But there might also be some big drawbacks. Doom scrolling is a fairly new area of psychological study. The term itself wasn't really widespread until the past decade, as worldwide tragedies and the sharp increase in the availability of information on apps made the behavior itself, scrolling through the news, faster, easier, and definitely scarier. As far as we know historically, our generation is the first to have this type of instant news access constantly at their fingertips. So, the kinds of scientific studies done now could have a huge impact on how it's viewed and handled in the future. Doom scrolling is mostly associated with negative or distressing news, since it would be unethical to create a negative event for research purposes. Most doom scrolling research focuses on previously occurring disasters and large-scale traumatic events. That means, unfortunately, there's been a lot of stuff to study very recently. Global politics, economic collapse, and the COVID-19 pandemic have all presented opportunities to further study doom scrolling. The beginning of the coronavirus, when many countries were in lockdown, seems to have been an especially high point for people to start doom scrolling and may have exacerbated an already difficult time. Most of the research to date suggests that there seems to be a relationship between the amount of time we spend doom scrolling and the increased levels of stress. For instance, this 2014 study, after the Boston Marathon bombing, found that participants who engaged with more than 6 hours of media coverage per day were much more likely to also experience symptoms of high acute stress than those who watched only a minimal amount of news. Here, the important thing to watch out for is that just because there's a relationship between these two things doesn't mean one causes the other. It might be tempting to say that the doom scrolling is causing the anxiety, but honestly, it could just as easily be the other way around. Maybe people with higher anxiety doom scroll more. Most studies done on doom scrolling are going to be correlational, just showing that there is a correlation or relationship. Most doom scrolling studies can't be causational because, like I mentioned before, it would be unethical to create a negative event purely for research purposes. Researchers can balance for some things. In the 2014 Boston bombing study, they did try to allow for things that might impact the data, like amount of media that the participants typically consumed and clinically diagnosed conditions. But even so, there's no way to tell if the anxiety or the doom scrolling is the cause. It's kind of a chicken and egg situation. We know that the anxiety and the doom scrolling are both there and related, but there's no way to tell which one came first. So, since we can't really tell if doom scrolling is a cause or a coping mechanism, what does that mean for those of us who like to stay up to date on everything? Mostly, it means use your own good judgment and make sure you're monitoring your mental health. If you watched our new About Us channel video, you know that Psy vs. Psy goal this year is to try to use science to help fight disinformation. Understanding how we consume information is a big part of that. If you want to see that About Us video or a link to the doom scrolling article I've been talking about, I'll leave them both down in the comments below. Or if you want to know more about the science in your everyday life, Make sure you subscribe to Psy vs. Psy so you can get all of our other videos and you can learn all about the science of psychology. Until next time, keep thinking, and I'll see y'all later. Bye! That whole chicken and egg thing, it was definitely the egg.